behalf of the Association of Energy Engineers and our network of 15,000 members in 77 countries, we wish to present to you our most prestigious award, the Lifetime Energy and Sustainable Development Award. President Carter, you are an idol to most of us in the energy industry, and through your pioneering efforts, we have the first National Energy Policy Act, which is a forefront of anything ever done. And through your tireless efforts, you have helped promote sustainable development to the Carter Center. Thank you so much for everything you've done to this industry.
Well, thank you. Well, as former president and as the head of the Carter Center and as an engineer, I'm very grateful to you. Thank you very much. Well, I'm deeply grateful to the Association of Energy Engineers for its Lifetime Energy and Sustainable Development Executive Award. It's an honor to receive this recognition from such an influential organization. I hope this occasion will be an inspiration to those who work on a day-by-day basis to ensure that we use energy in the most efficient ways possible. When I became president, I was convinced that a comprehensive energy policy was vital to our national security, our economy, and the environment. That's why 3 months later, when I went on national primetime television and called energy the moral equivalent of war, sometimes when we were debating with some members of Congress and various energy interests, it did feel like we were on a battlefield. But those were exciting years for those of us focusing on energy. We saw passage of major energy legislation in 1978 and 1980, the adoption of tough regulations to require greater energy efficiency, greatly expanded funding for advanced research, the launching of a wide variety of pilot projects on energy, and sustainable tax incentives to create bigger markets for improved energy and products and services. Some people question whether these actions had a big impact. The answer is clearly yes. For instance, many Americans added insulation to their own homes. Vehicle miles per gallon were steadily improved. Oil was displaced as a major fuel for electricity. Energy engineers, like you, figured out how to do things smarter and more efficiently. Research funds led to the expanded exploration for natural gas. The results were impressive. From 1977 to 1982, the United States cut its oil imports in half. This energy victory strengthened America's position in the world and helped bring down oil prices and spurred an economic rebound. Unfortunately, the American approach to energy has alternated between periods of crisis and periods of complacency. I hope we're entering a time when energy will again be on the forefront of the American agenda. We will need to take strong action if we're going to achieve our goals for energy security and a sustainable future. When I was born, the world contained about 2 billion people, very few of whom had automobiles or other conveniences that consumed a lot of fuel. Because my family lived in a rural area, we read by kerosene lights at my boyhood home because we were not yet connected to the electric grid. By the time I became president, world population had increased more than 4 billion, and the energy appetite of the world was growing rapidly. Today we stand at 7 billion people, and by mid-century we will have surpassed 9 billion. We need to be working toward meeting the energy needs of all the world's people, many of whom are trying to raise themselves from abject poverty in ways that are sustainable for the planet and the people on it. Avoiding international conflicts over scarce resources and slowing the threat of climate change are big challenges. Solutions are available, but they are not always easy. To be successful, we will need to recapture the intense focus we had on energy after the gasoline lines of the 1970s. And we will need to rely on the ingenuity and hard work of energy engineers like you. Thank you very much.
Under your leadership, the Department of Energy was formed. How difficult was it to get the National Energy Act and the Public Utility Policy Act passed through Congress?
Well, when I became president, I set this as the #1 domestic priority for my whole administration because I saw the need for comprehensive legislation. And of course, back then, the energy responsibilities in the government were divided among about 25 or 30 different agencies. There was no way to deal with the problem on a concerted basis. So it wasn't too difficult to get the Department of Energy established. But following that, it was very difficult to get legislation passed to implement the basic premises that we need for energy conservation, particularly efficiency. But we started working on that, and also the development of alternative sources of energy, and to convince the American people that every citizen had a right and an obligation to cooperate in the effort. So we mandated the efficiency of automobiles. We mandated through law the insulation of homes. The laws also required electric motors and refrigerators and stoves and so forth, just normal appliances, to become increasingly efficient. And we set up funding and exploration mechanisms to find new sources of energy, photovoltaic cells, wind power, and what later has developed into the exploration and use of enormous supplies of natural gas. It would not have been possible without that early legislation.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
What future directions do you think we should take in energy policy?
Well, what we need now, of course, is a concerted effort to address the energy problem in its totality, and combined with it the threat of global warming, which is another subject that I did not have to address when I was president. That's not been done yet. We haven't recently had a president who would put as a top priority the addressing of all of these combined issues at the same time, and from the White House leadership, working with Congress, of course, to emphasize the efficiency of the use of energy, the end of wasting energy. Secondly, new sources of energy, which were still to be explored. I think financial support for exploration and for innovative concepts that need to be made available. And also, of course, the troubling problem of increased deterioration of the international environment, that is global warming. So all of those things together have to be addressed in a composite way, with the President having it as a top priority, domestically speaking, and also working intimately with the Congress.
Thank you. What motivated you to start the Carter Center, and where would you think it's going to go in the future?
Well, when I left the White House as a result of the 1980 election, we were looking for a way to still use the information I had, the knowledge I had, experience I had, and the international contacts that I had derived from being leader of the greatest nation on earth. And so the Carter Center was something that my wife and I put together. Our basic goal then was to create an entity that was non-governmental in nature, that would really address issues that other people were not addressing adequately. For instance, if the United Nations or the World Bank or the U.S. government or Harvard University was taking care of a problem, we didn't want to get involved in it. We just kind of filled vacuums in the world. So this has led us to the kinds of things that we now do. We've monitored more than 80 troubled elections in the world, for instance. We negotiate peace efforts in dealing with people that are not addressed directly by our government, like North Korea and Cuba and Nepal and the Palestinian community. And we also heavily concentrate on the ending of the blight of neglected diseases that afflict people in troubled and very backward and developing countries. This means that we treat diseases that no longer exist in the rich world, or even the halfway rich world, but afflicts hundreds of millions of people in the poorest sections of the world. So that's what the Carter Center does, and we've always had an unanticipated agenda. We've had to accommodate opportunities as they arose. We've never been afraid of failing in some things that we tried if we thought they were worthwhile, and the Carter Center has grown accordingly.
Thank you, President.
I've enjoyed being with you, and best wishes to you and to other engineers who worked with you.
Thank you so much.